Hey guys, Chris here, and I'm a Ukrainian Canadian. Today's March 28th, 2023, and let's get to the news happening in Ukraine, shall we? So, first news I wanted to bring up today is that the International Olympic Committee recommended that the Russian and the Belarusian athletes should be allowed to compete for the next Summer Olympic Games, which are going to be held in Paris in 2024. I think personally it's an outrageous decision, even though it's not 100%. I think just the path or leading the idea that the Russian athletes should be allowed to compete is the wrong path to take. And clearly, in my opinion, Russia's dirty money here was involved. There's no doubt about it. Whether it be sports organizations or Russian politicians or Russian oligarchs that funneled some corrupt money into the hands of this president, whose name is Thomas Bach, I would not be surprised if that was the case. And it's a very deplorable decision. Whether it be just a recommendation or 100% being in favor, it's clearly laying the wrong message to the world that essentially we should be allowing a fascist government to compete in the next Olympic Games. Like, it's absolutely outrageous. And guys, the Russian athletes are some of the biggest supporters of the war. I've seen countless images of professional Russian wrestlers, Russian MMA fighters, gymnasts who have been proudly wearing the Z symbol and the Russian flag, being proud on the social media platforms about Russia's accomplishments in Ukraine, their victorious accomplishments in Ukraine. And I think that it's terrible that even giving the idea that possibly the Russians should be allowed to compete is it's just the wrong message overall. And I think that there's also, discussions of, the Ukrainian athletes that should be boycotting the next Summer Olympic Games and shouldn't be attending them. I think they should be attending them, but I don't think they should be shaking hands with the Russian athletes and, standing together like friends. They should not be allowed whatsoever. The Ukrainian athletes, if that happens and the Russians are going to be competing in the Olympic Games, the Ukrainians should not be shaking their hands whatsoever. It's going to be a propaganda machine for the Russians. They're going to be showing images of, look how the Russians and the Ukrainian athletes are shaking hands together. They're friends now. We're brothers, right? We've always been, brothers and sisters. And that is over. They should not be allowing these athletes to even compete in the first place. So, guys, it's a I'm asking my audience to do everything possible, to talk with people around you, to tell them this is not okay. And the IOC should not be allowing the Belarusian and the Russian athletes to compete for the next Olympics. The laughable news from yesterday is that Russia was caught red-handed making fake videos, basically propaganda videos displaying how Russian soldiers were threatening a female with her child, when she was passing through a checkpoint, and then the Ukrainian soldiers stop her and start threatening her and calling her a pig and just pretty much, giving her threats to her life. And well, it was to no surprise that it was a propaganda video, it was a fake, and that Russia clearly overlooked many details that they should have been more, I guess, they should have paid more attention to. And so, if you guys haven't seen it, you can easily find it on the social media platforms or even on the news. It's a 2-minute video, but first of all, the audio is fake. People proved that it was overlaid on the video. Second of all, it was geolocated to be on Russian occupied territory closer to Donetsk on the east of Donetsk city. Third of all, you can see that the Ukrainian soldiers no longer wear the yellow armbands. These were used last year during the Ukrainian counteroffensive in the spring, summertime. And what else? Yeah, clearly, Russia is clearly filming this mainly for its own population at this point. They clearly try to, also go on Twitter and, show to the world how Ukrainian soldiers are fascists and they're threatening, women and kids, right? Trying to hit the most vulnerable of people. But I think that it's mainly used for the internal propaganda, right? The Russian people are going to swallow anything at this point, and they want to watch this, right? Even if it's fake, they're gonna gobble it up 100%. And I think what came out as a realization to me is that Russia has lost the information war. This propaganda war that Russia's been very good at before 2022, they've lost it completely. All the credibility that people put behind their information and their news is completely gone. And no one believes Russia. They're liars, they're manipulators, and they will be so until this regime continues to exist in Russia. So I highly recommend you guys to watch it. And there's so many debunking videos that came out yesterday and today that you can watch it for your own pleasure. Now, positive news. The British Challenger 2s are officially in Ukraine. You can see that there's official images out of Ukraine. This seems to be like the first company of British Challengers that are already operating in Ukraine. And the British Ministry of Defense released a very cool video on YouTube a couple of days ago of how they were training these Ukrainian soldiers. 1 month training. This was an accelerated training that would have taken months, like about half a year, if not more, to train regular soldiers. The Ukrainians did that in a month. So it's very, very, impressive. Not that, these machines are super high tech and difficult to understand. I think that they're built to be quite easy to operate and understand. But it tells you how committed these Ukrainian soldiers are to get a victory and push out the Russians back to Russia. The other thing that is also positive is that France is considering to sell 40 Mirages, their jet fighters, so Mirage 2000s, to the Ukrainian forces, the Ukrainian Air Forces. And so they're planning to get them from the United Arab Emirates and Greece, who are the main operators of these Mirage 2000 jet fighters. These jet fighters were produced in the 1980s, so they're quite older compared to, let's say the much newer built F-16s. They're not as advanced either, but I still think that Ukraine, beggars cannot be choosers in this instance, and I think that they can still carry some quite good payloads and modern missiles. So that's what matters, right? Is the fact that they can carry modern NATO missiles that can hit long distance, Crimea, and deep within Russian-held territories in Donbass. So that's why they're going to be very important as well. So hopefully Ukraine is also going to get them very soon. They're going to be trained very soon, all in line for this spring counteroffensive somewhere around end of April, beginning of May. That's where I think the Ukrainian forces are aiming for at this point. Now, last video is another, thank God for this Russian idiocracy. It continues and it continues, it will not end. So this is in Skadovsk in Kherson, but this is by the Black Sea. So this is one of the beaches in Skadovsk, and the Russian brilliance just never ceases to amaze me. But they decided to put fences, looks like fences, on the beach to stop a potential Ukrainian amphibious assault. Ukraine, first of all, does not have a navy, so I'm not sure what they're planning here, but clearly they put up fences throughout the beach, and so this is their idea of a defense. And so the other side note I wanted to talk about is that if you guys don't know this person, his name is Rustam Muradov. So he is the commander, former commander at this point, of the Russian forces that were, in charge of the Vuhledar offensive, which has failed. And so now he's been demoted and he was replaced. And so, I don't expect the new replacement to be as brilliant as Rustam Muradov, or I hope he's actually going to be just as brilliant as Rustam Muradov, because this man allowed thousands of Russian soldiers to die in Vuhledar, with hundreds of Russian vehicles also lost in the last 2-3 months of this offensive. And I think that this shows you how much idiocracy exists within the Russian military. They do not have a strategy anymore. It's just Hail Marys at this point, right? Let's just put a fence on the beach, right? That's a great idea. Let's just put a bunker somewhere on the beach as well, like we've seen in Crimea. Let's just send hundreds of soldiers to certain death, and that's definitely going to help, right? It's never going to stop. And honestly, let's hope that it continues like that. So this is the video for today, guys. Please subscribe to my channel if you enjoy my content, like my video, and leave me a comment about essentially what do you think that this fence is going to help the Russians defend Kherson? I'll be interested to see your comments. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.